Hello, and today this is Tech Lover A. I guess I wanted to do another one of those school project videos, So, this is just a preface, so let's go. So, today we're going to talk about the life of Lady Jane Grey and focusing mostly on her 9-day rule. Obviously, I'm no documentarist, so I'm just going to sum up some of it. Enjoy. So, what were the plans like for her succession? Since she was the cousin of the previous king, King Edward VI. But he had two half-sisters, Mary and Elizabeth. They were both children of Henry VIII, splitter of churches and ladies, so guess what happened to their moms? Whatever. So, Edward VI is a Protestant, and no, Elizabeth is Protestant too, but I'm going to explain that later. He has a bunch of advisors, and one of them happens to be the Duke of Northumberland, who is incredibly ambitious and has the brains to prove it. So, he decides, because Mary is supposedly the next person to inherit the throne, as Edward VI's father, Henry VIII, has laid out in his will. If Edward VI died childless, then his sisters will inherit the throne. But the Duke of Northumberland didn't like that, because that will go straight to Mary, and King Edward VI didn't like that too. So, they said, why don't we go, go all the way up and then cross over to my king's siblings and then down to Lady Jane Grey and her mother, Lady Frances Grey, and her, her entire family, the Grey family, Lady Frances Grey was probably a sibling of Henry VIII, I think. So, what happened was that in order to prevent Mary, who was a Catholic, and to inherit the throne, Edward VI said in his will that the Lady Jane Grey and her male should inherit the throne. This obviously didn't actually go too well with Mary, because she was basically disinherited in the space of, 2 months. So, she wasn't too happy about that. But, she was not informed of this will until much later. So, King Edward VI was infected with tuberculosis, so he wasn't doing too well. And then he died a few days later. And the Privy Council, basically the council that ran the entire country after the kings quickly gathered together and then immediately covered the king's death up so that Mary couldn't know. And they kept it from Lady Jane Grey too, so you can see how the Privy Council is kind of using her like a puppet. So, they just said, hey, let's get the hold of the Tower of London, which has a lot of gunpowder, a lot of cannons, a bunch of very skilled men, and then hold them in there so that we'll have massive amounts of equipment for our soldiers. Okay, that's sounded pretty good. And then, however, this leaked out. And then at the local, a Londoner, a devout Catholic, ran straight to Mary and said, "Hey, your brother's dead." And the Privy Council is like, they gave the throne to your cousin Jane. Mary goes nuclear, couldn't do anything about it. So she publishes an open letter saying, "Hey, join my cause because I'm supposed to be the queen." But the Privy Council also, probably around then, published an open proclamation included Edward VI's device for the succession, and then basically said, "Long live Queen Jane." Okay, so for first days of the crisis, which happens to be in July crisis. I'm sorry, I'm not talking about World War I, but whatever. So. Lady Jane Grey was ferried down the River Thames to the Tower of London. And they said, "Hey, you're a queen! Hooray!" So, for traditional legends, Lady Jane cried and said she didn't want the throne. And then her parents came in and said, "You have to have the throne." And then apparently slapped her. But her tears, A, are probably for Edward VI, and B, there was no evidence of the violence. So, so Jane inherited the throne. So Mary was not feeling so good, and then she basically said, whatever. And she raises a bunch of local armies, who are very ill-equipped, mind you. They around like 3,000 men, and then she said, "Okay, there isn't a space." And then she marched all the way to East Anglia, and then went to Framlingham Castle, which formed one of her East Anglian estates. So, yeah. And then she continued to gather men, at an alarming rate. Back to Lady Jane Grey. Now, Northumberland was pretty pleased with himself, and then said, "Oh, this Mary person is getting a lot of troops. I wonder why. So, let's raise an army and then snuff her out." He was feeling pretty competent, gunpowder and a bunch of cannons to wreck her castle, and a bunch of cavalry that'll basically trample over her men, and the infantry will kill all of them. Okay. And then he sent a bunch of galleys to go to East Anglia and then blockade the sea, so that she wouldn't, get out. So Northumberland said, "Hey, you! Are you Jane's father?" "Yes." "Okay, you lead the army and then get kill